Okay, we played well Saturday night. Both sides of the ball, offense, defense, were very productive. Special teams, not much of a factor in the game, but like I said, we had outstanding offensive production, over 500 yards of offense, 40-plus points. Ran the ball effectively, threw the ball maybe as efficiently as I've ever seen a Utah team throw the ball. Defensively, played the run tough, generated a bunch of takeaways, and we're exceptional in the red zone defensively, and a lot of those takeaways came in the red zone, which magnifies them. And so good stuff. Saturday night came out pretty healthy. We move on to Arizona now, game 11, and it's on the road, last Pac-12 road trip this year. They've got some weapons. Running back is a good player, J.J. Taylor. He's tough, runs hard. Quarterback, we all know about Khalil Tate. I know they're splitting some time recently, but at quarterback, but he's a talent. Defensively, they haven't been as productive, I'm sure, as they wanted defensively. They had the change in coordinator a couple weeks ago, which changed things somewhat, but we got to be ready to play. I mean, it's a Pac-12 game, and every week, if you're not on your game and you're not ready to go, then bad things are going to happen. And so need a good week of practice, need to handle our business just like we have been the last several weeks, and have the right approach and have the right attitude, the right mentality, and go down there and try to play well. So questions?
Kyle, what goes into the decision what's the staffing like? What happens that way into deciding on starting a Heisman campaign for Tyler?
That's really comes out of Paul's office, the SID office, and it's a combination of things. First of all, you got to play at a certain level, obviously, and I've said it for a lot of weeks now that Tyler, in our opinion, and I think in the nation's opinion now, is an elite player, an elite quarterback, and he's got a lot of those quarterback awards that are the major ones still in play. He's in the finals of just about every, at least as far as they pared it down to this point, he's still alive in a lot of those, in most all of those categories. So I think that's what boils down to is our SID department and what they want to, when they want to kick off a campaign and when they think it's viable. And then also, like I said, on a national scene, your quarterback being listed among those final candidates.
In year 15, is this the offense you've always wanted?
Well, good question. I love what we're doing offensively, and I think we had very similar results last time Andy was here, in our first 4 years. And so I think that it is a great compliment to our defense. They play off each other, and very pleased so far. You never make your final analysis until after the season, until you have the whole body of work. But so far it's been pretty good.
Kyle, what's making Tyler wow you on a week-to-week basis that maybe he wasn't the last couple of years?
His complete dedication and immersement. Is that a word? Immersement? Is that a word? Immersion. Immersement. So month would not be okay. His complete immersion in the details of what he's doing. His preparation is outstanding. And he prepares. We're in the pregame locker room, and he's still in his book, preparing right up before kickoff. Looking for that last little advantage or thing that he can do to help us play. Are you sure immersement's not a game? Look it up. Look it up. I might be right. DJ's looking puzzled. He's not sure either. Okay.
We got two Provo High guys trying to figure this out.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So 2 years ago, he was in that competition with Troy Williams. It's a little bit of controversial that he got the starting job. You could say 2 years ago, maybe it was baptism by immersion. I don't know. But either way, do you think that he had to go through those experiences to be what he is, the type of quarterback that he is today?
Well, it's a process, and he certainly, when he won the job way back when, it seems like a long time ago now, there was going to be growing pains anytime you're a new starting quarterback. I don't care what the situation is. There's going to be growing pains, and so I guess the answer is yeah. I mean, there's just a period of adjustment and getting used to the speed of the game and the just the complexity of the college game, because the college game is much more complex than the high school game, and so it just takes time to feel comfortable in that situation, and the game really starts to slow down for you. When you start to gain experience, things start to slow down and things become, and that's not just unique to the quarterback position, that's any position. Things happen pretty quickly when you're first experiencing, Division I football, but then after you get settled in, the game slows down. That's when you start to become really effective.
You mentioned they changed defensive coordinators, and there were some changes, schemes, tendencies, personnel.
Just not wholesale changes, but it's still early in the week. We're still computer reports and all that are still being generated, but you can't make a wholesale change at that point in the season. But just changing the leadership and maybe a little bit of a philosophical change.
You've talked a lot about how fun this team is to coach, but when they're on the sidelines, I mean, you back up quarterbacks, whatever, they're jumping up and down when a defensive guy does something. Like what's been so different about this team and how they've bought into this program?
Well, we've had the culture here, we feel, has been pretty good for a lot of years, and last year's team was similar to this year. Just seems like we've taken it up a notch this year, and we've got 120 guys on the roster, and as far as I can tell, every one of them is bought into what we're doing, and every one of them is all in, is a term we use here quite a bit, and everybody pulling in the same direction, and great teammates. That's something we preach a lot. The main concern you should have as a player in this program is to be a great teammate.
Of your seniors on defense, and maybe you can include Jalen Johnson into this, how many NFL prospects do you think there are?
Just with the seniors and Jalen?
Yeah.
Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 7, 8, somewhere in there, yeah. Which is great. I mean, that helps your defensive coordinator out when you got that talent, for sure.
You touched on this a little bit last week about 04 and 08, and you're kind of getting into that national spotlight again. Does the noise get louder, and does it get harder to insulate yourself when we're talking Heisman Trophy candidates and rankings and things like that at this point?
Well, it certainly gets louder, and there's more of it, but you just still got to take the same approach and have the same MO of just not listening and not paying attention to it, and just keeping your vision and your focus with what the immediate task at hand is. And our guys to this point have done a great job of that, and here we are, the last 2 games of the regular season, and hopefully we don't deviate from that now at this point in time.
You have those 6 guys already committed to the Senior Bowl. Terrell Burgess coming into the season maybe would be the one we wouldn't have thought about in that context. What has he done to get himself to that level?
He has been tremendous this year, and you're right. He was a little bit under the radar coming into the season nationally, and well, I shouldn't say nationally, even in the Pac-12. We have always known that he's an outstanding player, and this was his opportunity to play full-time. He was behind some pretty good safeties last year, and he has played his way into an opportunity to play the next level just through hard work. He's a great athlete. He's got speed. He's a 4.45 kid as far as the 40. He's smart. He knows the defense inside and out. He's technically sound, fundamentally sound, and he played his way into the Senior Bowl, and my guess is he'll play his way into the NFL.
Kyle, just to follow up on the anecdote of Tyler being at his locker room reading the book pregame, is that rare for players, in your opinion?
Not
Does
complete.
it depend?
I'm sorry.
No, does it depend on the position?
Yeah, quarterback is by far the most demanding position mentally on the team, and I would say it's not highly common, but you will see guys do that, particularly quarterbacks. Just continuing to look for that last minute edge that they may get, that something may click when they're taking that last look. And we talk about it as a program. The hay is never in the barn. That's another axiom that we believe in, that the preparation goes on all the way to the ball's in the air on kickoff, and then you get into game mode.
And we saw Sione Lund on that 3 linebacker package. Is that just becoming another wrinkle for Morgan's defense? Because we kind of saw that pretty predominantly up at Washington.
Well, you'll see that typically when they go 2 or 3 tight ends. It's more a matchup thing than anything else. And we saw a lot of 2 tight, and UCLA has some really good tight ends, and they use multiple tight ends quite a bit in that game. I think it was 25 snaps or thereabouts. And Sione Lund right now is the third backer when we go to the 4-3 scheme, which used to be our base and what we used to live in, 75% of the time is now typically in a given week 15% of the time at best. But this past game it was a little higher dose, and Sione Lund is just a sophomore and really has made a lot of progress as a linebacker. Played tailback in high school. He played defense as well, but I think coming out of high school, a lot of people thought that his future was going to be on offense, but we think he's going to be an outstanding linebacker.
Coach, Brandt Keith has really become a weapon in this passing game. How has he helped stretch the defense? And can you just discuss his development?
Yeah, he's playing his best football without a doubt, and he's just a true sophomore. He's only been with us a little over a year, and he's as I've said before, a tough matchup for defenses. He can. He can't be covered by a linebacker, in our opinion, and safety matchup, sometimes doesn't work either. But he's an extremely smart kid. I keep using that term. We're smart, intelligent guys on offense, and throughout the whole team, for that matter. But he understands how to run routes. First of all, he understands defenses, and he's a guy he's not the biggest guy for a tight end, 6'2" and about 2 1/4, but he has tremendous quickness and speed, soft hands, and just has a knack for finding open space.
Coach, outside of Britton Covey, you have yourself a pretty healthy football team. Is there anything you're doing differently this year than you have in the past?
Not really differently. We've, one thing is I think if you looked at total time spent on the field in practice, it's probably a little less this year, and I know it was less. There was less live work in spring ball and two-a-days, and that's what when you have a veteran team, that's something you can do and you can get away with. I don't know if you can get away with that every year, because it depends on how many guys you need to develop. But when you got a bunch of guys that have a lot of experience, it's easier to do that.
Kyle, how can you compare Morgan Scalley as a player and as a coach and the evolution? Is he as intense as he's always been?
Every bit as intense, and there's a great deal of similarity between his play and how he coaches and his style. He's passionate. He's intense. Always thinking. He's smart. He was one of those guys. Talk about the guys that would be in their book before the game. Morgan Scalley was one of those guys. When he was a player, in his book in the locker room, and he's the same way as a coach. We go to a team movie every Friday night. We take the team to the movies. Morgan's never in the movies, sitting in the lobby watching tape on his computer, and so he's just a relentless preparer and outstanding teacher, and really good schematically. He's got a great mind for it. He's got all the tools for being a great defensive coordinator.
Can you argue that all the hype and all the attention now and the possibilities that exist at the end of the season actually is increasing the concentration and the focus and doesn't take away from the one game at a time?
There is an argument for that, absolutely, and it's it almost becomes. I don't want to say it helps, but as we talk about it and as the players sense it and feel it, and as the coaches stress, block it out and focus, I think it can. I think it can work in that way and in that fashion.
You're in a situation where you don't know if you have 3 games left or 5 games left in terms of a roster management with some potential red shirts. What dilemma is that? And are there any specific examples of guys that you might be activating at some point here?
Yeah, it's tricky, and you're right. There is some variables there on how many games that we do have left, and we have the roster, the redshirt roster that we look at every single week, and keeping track of who's played in what games. And there's about probably half a dozen players that are right there, either at the maximum or approaching the maximum, that we've got to determine, are we going to put them over the threshold and just use the year? And so that'll be determined in the next few weeks. If guys can help us win, we don't want to. It's got to be. We don't want to totally put a player in a bad situation, but if he's willing and we can help, he can help us win. There's a conversation that takes place, and then we decide based on that. But yeah, there's a half a dozen guys or so that are in that boat.
We're shy today, I guess. How much success do you take in when coaches who have been on your staff go on and have head coaching success?
Well, I take pride in that, absolutely, and guys that have been in our program and have gone out and flourished as a head coach. I think that's something that is it's and a lot of the guys, and it depends. For example, when Urban came in, a lot of his stuff was Lou Holtz and Earl Bruce and guys from his background that he just implemented. I think a lot of our guys that leave here take a lot of what we're doing, the blueprint, and use it other places. And so I think it's not only a sense of or a source of pride, but maybe a little bit of a what we're doing here works. What did you say? What was that?
Verification.
Verification. Is that a word? Yeah, verification. Just kidding. Yeah, absolutely. Validation, verification. Yeah.
The reason why I bring it up is one of your former D coordinators. It was announced today he got a contract extension through 2023.
Oh, great! I didn't hear that. That's awesome. Obviously, you're talking about Kalani, and good for him. Close friend of mine, and well deserved. So happy for Kalani.
You've been praising Utah a lot in the national stage. Obviously, he's got that analyst role and can do that. I mean, ever since he visited the program this year, how much interaction have you had with him beyond maybe anything? Has it grown? Is there anything that you've talked about that way? Or?
Not really. We've had a friendship and a relationship ever since he was here as the head coach, and that's been ongoing. We still text and talk. He texted me just last week before the game, and it's good to have him in our corner. I'll tell you that. He's he's very influential and a smart guy, and everything helps.
So when you went back and looked over the tape, I mean, obviously the score, the stats are just all overwhelming. Do you see little things that you can still go fix that maybe the other team couldn't take advantage of for whatever
absolutely.
reason? Or still players making mistakes, or was it really just an awesome performance?
A lot of good stuff, but a lot of things to fix, and that's you don't want to let victory or winning mask deficiencies because it can, and so you've got to grade it and critique it and dissect it. Just like you would, you don't really the winner or the loss doesn't matter when you're critiquing and grading the tape. You've got to be objective, and there is always things that get uncovered in a win as well as a loss. And the thing about winning is you can coach them harder because they're not as fragile. When you lose or have a couple losses, you get a fragile team. It's tough to really coach them hard. And so some of your best coaching and your hardest coaching can take place after wins.
Kyle, you guys have had a lot of former players join the coaching staff. Is it hard to project any guys on this year's team that you could foresee in the future becoming assistants, coordinators, coaches down the line?
Brandt Keith comes to mind. He's a guy that wants to go this direction as far as thinking about becoming a coach and the way his mind works. And he's always coming to me pretty much every day with an idea or a play or something that he wants me to take a look at. And so I would say he stands out, and there's probably half a dozen other guys that I can see going that route.
Are they generally offensive ideas from Britain or both?
Always offensive ideas. Yeah.
Before
Or punt return ideas. Yeah. Sorry.
Before your mind switches quickly to the next opponent, are you able to enjoy winning, or do you even consciously tell yourself to enjoy winning?
That's a good question, and my mind, as soon as the gun goes off and the game's over, I'm starting to think about who's next, and I probably don't. I do myself a disservice by not enjoying the victories as much as I should, but I think that's how a lot of coaches are built. I mean, you're always on to the next thing, but I try. Really, when the season's over, you can look back and reflect, and that's when you maybe will appreciate a little bit more what's going on.
You said after the game that you're not into style points, or you're certainly not your style to run up a score, but do you think there is any value of impressing whoever it may be to be as impressive as possible?
In reality, as much as you hate to say it, there probably is. I mean, especially people that haven't seen your game and all they do is look through and look at the score, and if you beat someone 35-10 as opposed to 56-10, that probably does sway them a little bit and have an impact. But still, I don't believe in that. We don't believe in that. And I think I mentioned after the game on Saturday that we were a little bit more wide open for a longer period of time because of their ability to make big plays. I mean, they're a big play team, and so and we'd seen that. I had seen that firsthand a month ago when they played Washington State. So yeah, I think to answer your question, yeah, I think there is absolute truth to that, and like I said, the circumstances are usually where they haven't had a chance to see our game. All they're doing is reading the score line, and they put some stock into that.
Kyle, do you have any special plans for November 21st?
No, what's going on that day? Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's end on that one. Okay. What was the word? I'm going to look it up. Immersement. Immersement. Look it up. Look at my immersement in this subject. It's strictly immersion. Can't deviate from that. I'm sure.
I'll check.